Alright guys, welcome to this video. Now, right in front of me is the EOS 750D camera. Let me turn it around for you so you can have a look at it. That is the 750D camera. That is the camera that is available to you guys, especially the degree students, to use for your production. Now, I take it by now you should know what a DSLR is, but if you do not know what a DSLR means, it means a digital single lens reflex camera, which basically means that this part of the camera, which is the lens, can be removed from the body. All right, that is a rather simplistic way of explaining it, but that would be the best way to do it. Any camera that can do this would be a semi-professional camera, but the 750D is what we chose to provide you with, is because it is a half decent video camera as well as a photo camera. All right, so let's begin by looking at all the various parts of the camera so that you can familiarize yourself with the device. All right, okay, smack on top of the camera you've got buttons ranging from here to here and all of the other things here. So we are going to focus on this one here. This is the shutter button. You press this to take a photo. I repeat, a photo. You do not touch this if you're shooting a video. All right, so just remember that. The other thing here is this button here. That's on, and that's video mode. Okay, so if you're taking photo, all you need to do is just turn it on. If you want to take a video, push it a bit more to take a video. All right, now before you even attempt taking a video, you need to adjust this dial, and this dial is adjusted by just by turning it like that. Okay, and as a general rule, if you're shooting video, you want it on M. Okay, M is for manual, AV is for aperture priority, TV is for time or shutter priority, and P is for program mode. Ignore all those modes. All right, we are training you to be an utter professional, and we only want you to stay in M. Now, if you are not in M and you go into the video mode, nothing's going to basically happen. The only thing that may happen is that you may not have full control of all of the features in the camera. Okay, now the other three buttons up here are your display buttons, the ISO buttons, and your shutter compensation buttons, which I'll be honest with you, you do not want to touch. These are the only two things that you want to touch, the ISO button and the display button. All right, to explain these two buttons, I'm going to flip the screen over to video mode, and I am going to now press the display button. See what's happening? This function is not available in the movie shooting mode. You are going to face this statement a number of times because, like I said, DSLR cameras were not basically designed for video. All right? The video feature was just added as an afterthought. So don't worry too much about that. But if you press the ISO button, by the way, the ISO button's on top here. ISO, right? Okay, sorry, can't see that. Let me adjust it. That's the ISO button right there. If you press the ISO button, you get to now adjust the ISO. Now you can press the cursor-like keys here on the right and left. You can go left and right. You can also use the wheel on top. See this wheel here? Roll the wheel left, roll the wheel right, to adjust what you want. But the 750D has a very unique feature. It is one of the few cameras that offers you touch screen functionality. Okay, you can touch A for auto, you can touch 3002, you can touch 200, etc, etc, etc. Okay, all right, so here's the question: why do I need a button up here when I can press the button down here? Now the answer is simple. You do not want any buttons on the touch screen when you have the camera to your face. When you put the camera to your face or when you're using it as a video camera, you will accidentally touch the screen and all your settings will be wrong. It will just change on the fly. Okay, so that is not what you want to do. Now, let's talk about the 3 basic settings for video. Okay, let's press the Q button, and straight away you're going to see a menu. It's a bit blur. Hang on, let me adjust it. There we go. All right. You want to press the Q function, and you will see that you have a lot of other features here to set. So I'll just go through very quickly what those features are. Okay, that's your autofocus method. We're not going to do autofocus. You need to set your focus manually. You need to change the single or continuous shooting. This is your image size. This one is important. This is your recording quality and frame rate. So let's talk about that for a moment. On the bottom left, you have FHD or Full HD. Let's press that again. Then you have Full HD 25p. Then you have HD 50p. Then you have HD 25p. You have VGA and VGA. There are 2 Full HD settings. There are 2 normal HD settings, and then there are 2 normal VGA settings. One is high res, the other one isn't high res. Always choose the one without the down arrow. Okay, so let's talk about the differences between FHD, HD, and VGA. It's all got to do with the size of this frame. Okay, if you select HD 25p, the video will be 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels at 25 frames per second. If you choose HD, it will be 1280 pixels by 720 pixels at 50 frames per second. VGA, do not even contemplate. All right, I repeat, do not even contemplate VGA. VGA quality is even less than your handphone. So not for your assignment, don't touch it at all. If you are asking me, I know some of you are probably asking me, sir, if like that, why do they put it in? Yeah, not everybody on the planet has high-powered laptops like you. These cameras must be affordable for everyone, including people who have to edit videos on their handphones. Okay, so the VGA function is to cater to those people. All right, the very, very budget conscious, the people who do not have the funds to buy powerful laptops or even powerful phones. Seriously, dude, knocking again? Holy crap. Anyway, let's continue. I can't afford to stop and I'm running out of time. Okay, so now let's talk about the info button. There's a button here that says info. If you press it and turn it on, it cycles through the different kinds of screens. See, this is without any display. Press it again, you get some information. Press it again, you get more information. Press it again, you get the histogram. Which one do you want? I like to use this when I'm shooting and this when I'm setting it up for the first time. So let's talk about the screens. I'm going to use this one to explain a few feature sets. Now, if you look carefully at the bottom, there's an AT at the bottom. That's AT. That's your shutter speed. This is your aperture, and this is your ISO. These 3 things are very important to video production because you now have a set of limitations to work with. So let's show you the limitations. With regards to shutter speed, all right, by the way, I'm turning if you can see on the right hand side of the screen over here, my finger is actually turning the knob to adjust my frame rate. Okay? And as you can see, as I'm increasing the shutter speed, the image is getting darker and darker and darker. All right, congratulations. Now here is the rule. Rule number 1, your shutter speed must be 1/2 the frame rate. Wow, what on earth does that mean? Okay, let's go to the menu. Let us now set the frame rate. Let's look for the setting that says video. This one. No, this one. Okay. Movie recording size. Can you see that? Right, so I'm going to click that and I am going to choose which one. Do I want the full HD 25 frames? Do I want the HD 50 frames? See the difference in numbers? Watch the numbers. 1920 by 1080 25 or 1920 by 1080 25 light or HD 1280 720 50. So let's explain this in simple terms. 50 frames per second, if you use that format, the motion in your video, the movement in your video is going to be very, very smooth. It is going to look like a National Geographic documentary on your TV set. But if you select 25p, your video will now look like a cinematic movie, like Marvel Avengers, like all the romance shows that you have seen, like Jurassic World. In other words, the video is going to look very dreamy, it's going to have a lot of blurring, and it's going to look different. It is not going to look bad, just different. Which one do you choose? The answer is it doesn't matter. What matters for your assignment is that you stick to the same format all the way. Let me repeat it. All the way. And all the way not only means to the shooting period, but it also means to the editing period. If you shoot 1280 by 720 at 50 frames per second, make sure when you edit in the exact same format as well. If you don't do that, your computer's going to slow down, your videos are going to look weird, and it's just going to be a fiasco. Alright? Alright, so for this particular arrangement, I am going to choose Full HD 25 frames per second. Congratulations, step 1 is done. Now, let's press the info button again, and now let us set our shutter speed. Of all days for ambulances and noise to occur, they choose a day when I need to make a video. Right, I never say die, I'm going to proceed. Okay, so now we know that our frame rate is 25 frames per second. I'm going to introduce you to the 180 degree shutter rule. Okay, if you want to understand more about the shutter rule or the 180 degree rule, just Google it, and there are lots of videos out there explaining the shutter angle. Alright, it's a 180 degree shutter angle, by the way. The simple rule is this. Your frame rate is 25, your shutter should be double it, 50. If your frame rate is 50, your shutter should be 100. Okay? And the reason for that is because it will give you the best motion blur available. It will look very, very cinematic. Okay? So because we shot at, our frame rate is 25, I'm going to set our shutter at 1/50. Okay? Alright. So here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. If this were a photograph, you could use any of these three options, shutter, aperture, and ISO, to adjust the brightness of your scene. Unfortunately, this is not a photograph, this is a video. And now we have the first set of restrictions. Restriction number 1, we try very much not to touch the shutter speed. Okay? Even if the image is dark, we play with the ISO, we play with the aperture to get the brightness that we want. Okay? We never touch the shutter speed. When do we touch the shutter speed? When we want to do slow motion. Alright? When we, for example, if I'm moving my finger and you don't want to see a blur, you increase the shutter speed. That is the rationale for video. Okay, so let me repeat. If you're shooting video and you want to make your image brighter, you need to touch the other two options that are available. Okay, so let me show you. Seriously, can't even hammer properly. Next, F5. I am now adjusting my aperture. See what's happening? It's getting darker, and now it's getting brighter. Cool? All right. Now, I'm not going to go into details of explaining depth of field and all that. I'm just going to allow you the option of playing with this to make it bright or dark. The last option is your eye. Sorry, where is it? Dude. Touchscreens are not very conducive for people like myself with fat fingers. All right. Now, the last option here is your ISO. You have automatic. That means the camera sets the ISO for you. And you have manual ISO with jumps from 100 to 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. 64 is your highest ISO, and it actually allows you to shoot in pretty dark environments. Unfortunately, there will come a time where the environment is so dark that you won't be able to use even 6400. Which is why all videographers worth their salt must now learn how to add video lighting. Okay? Digital photographers are not too concerned about lighting a scene because they can play with these features here, the shutter speed. They can change the shutter speed to a speed that is so slow that they can literally shoot in moonlight. As long as the moon is shining, there's a little bit of light, photographers can shoot and get a very nice image. Videographers, on the other hand, have a limitation. They cannot drop this shutter speed lower than the frame rate. Okay, so because our frame rate was 1/25, 1/50 is the standard. See that? Okay. We can also change our aperture. By the way, you don't have to touch the aperture screen if you are, lazy. You can actually just press the AV button here, where my thumb is pressing, and turn the knob on top. See the aperture ring change? All right. In fact, I recommend you learn how to do that as well. It is faster and more efficient. Okay. Now, if I want to change the ISO, I can also press the ISO button, which is on top here. And I'm going to change my ISO to a number that is static. All right. Now, let me explain why I'm choosing a static number. A static ISO is very important if you have multiple cameras shooting the same scene. Okay. So for example, if I set the scene and I aim my camera there and I find that, yeah, I like this setting, shutter speed 50, aperture 5.0, ISO 1600. Using this camera with this lens, that looks perfect. You don't have to think anymore. You can now move your camera left and right and maintain the settings, and you will still get a decently exposed photograph. More importantly, the second camera that comes onto the set, if it's a similar spec camera, that person doesn't have to set the camera at all. All you need to do is yell to that person, "Yo, dude, shutter 50, aperture 5.0, ISO 1600." And you are now ready to rumble. You are now ready to start shooting a multi-camera production. Got it? All right. So those are the fundamentals for your shutter, your aperture, and your ISO. There is another one here, which is your white balance, and you can get the white balance setting by pressing the WB. Okay. Let me get out of here. Q. Let's go look for the white balance. Hang on, let me wear my specs. Can't see. Haha. Ding. Hold on. Info. One more time. And here. Okay, so this model of camera, the white balance must be set from within the menu. So let's just have a look at the menu settings itself. Okay. If you look inside here, you have multiple menu options available to you. Okay. Unfortunately, not all of them are designed to help video producers. Okay. In fact, if you want to find out which one is perfect for video, it is essentially this one and this one. That's it. Okay, this one and this one. Right, so let's go through the different settings that we want to play with. The first one here is this one. Movie recording size, you know what to do, fine. Sound recording, you can activate it to automatic levels, manual levels, or disable. All right, do not use disable, always record some sound. But in your case, if you're using a test cam or an external recording device, then I recommend you just set the sound recording to auto, okay? Let the camera handle the volume for you. As you can tell, as I'm talking, the meters are going crazy, up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you look at the number 12 over here, that number 12 denotes the optimal recording volume. The camera is setting it for you right now. If I set it to manual, on the other hand, I will now need to set my gain. All right? It depends on the loudness. Look at the meter right now. Right now, it is recording up to this level here. If I increase the gain, sound check 1 2, sound check 1 2, it is coming over here. If I increase the gain even more, it is now going over there. All right? Now bear in mind that this gain setting is for the microphone of this camera, which is situated in front, somewhere around under here or under here. All right, let me show you. It's either set up here, here, or under here. All right, different models have different positions. That is the sound that you are using. But if you are using the Rode Video Micro Pro, you can use the side feature of the camera here and plug in the Rode mic into that socket. Then you can put the Rode mic on top of the camera. Let me just adjust the focusing a bit. You could put the Rode mic sitting on top here and the cable going into the side over here. All right? And then you adjust the gain for the scenario. All right? Now, how often do you need to adjust the gain? Well, the answer is simple. Every time you change your location, every time you are resetting a new shoot or a new shot, you need to readjust the gain. Okay? Wind filter and attenuator. A wind filter is a filter that identifies when it hears this sound. When it hears that sound, it cuts down the volume instantly. Okay? The answer is disable. We do not want the camera to handle anything for us. We want to be in charge of all of our sounds. So your wind filter should be off. The attenuator, on the other hand, is an AGC, like an automatic gain controller. For example, if I suddenly come closer like this very loud, the camera will compensate. Again, I want to disable this. I want to control the sound myself. Okay? Right. So, let's go into the other menus. You've got AF method, movie servo method, AF this, blah, 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 blah. Now, the answer is disable all of this. All right? AF method, I don't care. Movie servo, I don't care. AF with this during movie recording, I don't care. And the reason for that is I never, ever shoot a video with automatic focus. In fact, I'll come to the side of the camera here, turn off the autofocus and push it into manual focus. I don't know if you can see that. See that? MF over there? Yeah. Push that into manual focus and leave it there. I do that for multiple reasons. Reason number one, I like to be in control of my focusing ring. This is the focusing ring right here. This is the zoom ring. Okay? The second reason is when you use manual focus, your battery life increases by about 20%. That's right, folks. Use manual focus, your battery will last longer. Okay? In fact, if you want your battery to last even longer, disable the stabilizer. See that stabilizer here? Turn it off. you get an additional 15% maybe. Okay? Now, what I find particularly hilarious is I taught this to some earlier students, and they turned all this on and all that, but they left the camera on the tripod in this position and went for lunch. Yeah, so like I said, you need to be totally conscious of what is happening. You need to be totally aware of all of these features and settings that are happening on your camera. Okay? All right, so finally, let's say we've got this. I have focused, I have framed it, I have adjusted focus. I like that. I'm ready to shoot. I yell action, and then I press the record button. That blinking light over here tells you that data is recording. That red dot tells you that it is recording as well. Occasionally, the camera can overheat and you will see a warning. When you see the warning, stop and reshoot the scene again. But first, turn off the camera, take a 10-minute toilet break, let the camera cool down, come back, and then begin all over again. Here's the problem. The camera sometimes will not retain the settings for you. So as a cameraman, as a DOP, you need to check and write down all of these settings based on your scene. If you're shooting scene 1, shot 1, please make a list or a shot list, SHOTLIST, yeah? And write down all the settings and all the angles and all the camera lenses, the angles that you're going to use. Got it? All right. All right, so in a nutshell, that is the simplest explanation for the 750D. I presume that you will have additional questions. I will be glad to actually start producing videos with regards to your questions. I will not be producing another video, a general video like this, to show you how the camera works. It is your responsibility as a camera operator to master your camera of choice. Now, if you have a camera of your own, be a master of that camera. If you don't and you're using the 750D, please use this video, go back and experiment with all the things that I showed you and become comfortable with finding the buttons. All right. Thank you very much, guys. That's 27 minutes that just flew by. See you in the next video.